Welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for the final Mock Draft Monday video. I will be releasing one more mock draft. It's going to be my big one, my 3.0 mock, either on Sunday or Monday. So that will be the technical final mock draft Monday. But for this video, you'll see the layout already looks a little bit different than what we might be used to, because I will just be presenting 4 drafts in total, 3 all drafts that I've worked over the past 10 days. Mock draft 1 and 3, the one that I did the longest time ago, and the third one that I will be presenting to you, are both drafts that are a little bit more plain Jane, what I'm expecting. They're kind of mock drafts, honestly, that I did in preparation for my 3.0, just kind of looking at a couple of different routes and kind of narrowing in on what my final predicted mock draft will look like. Then the 4th mock draft is probably clear in the thumbnail to some extent. I don't know what the thumbnail is going to look like for this video yet, but it's a little treat for you is what it really is. And so that's going to be my worst mock draft ever, shitty mock draft, whatever you want to call it. And it's not complete craziness. It's not like I'm giving them a bunch of 7th round picks, or I'm just giving teams who already have a quarterback. I'm not doing things that cannot happen. I'm just doing a variety of different things to put together what I think would be the least likely but still possible mock draft ever. So, aka worst mock draft. So, with that being said, a couple of quick announcements. First of all, if you did not catch this yet, I have released my top 10 or 15 players at each position, videos for each of those positions. I have linked down in the description. Some of the videos have 2 positions in them, but those are my not my final, but those are the videos that I did, the rankings at the time of those videos for each of the positions. Some things have changed, and in those videos you can see by joining the channel, there will be an advertisement for how to join the channel and get access to all of those rankings if you'd like. Also, I will be live for at least the first 2 days of the actual NFL draft here on YouTube. So you don't have to stay the whole time, of course, but it would be awesome to see some of you catch in here, say hello, and react and watch the draft together for however long you wish to stay. And last up, I've released 3 out of 4 videos in a series where I am looking at, in each video, the AFC and the NFC North. In another video, the AFC and the NFC West, East, South, together. And for those 8 teams, I'm doing a 3-round mock draft, and then the computer's controlling the other 24 teams, where prior to doing that mock draft, I have looked at each of the teams and their off seasons, something that I've been keeping track of course, the entire off season, and coming to determination of the needs for the team and what type of players that they might be looking for now compared to previously, due to any schematic changes that the new coaches for individual teams might have implemented, looking at new additions to the team, etc. So if you're, for your team's video especially, go check that out, because I would love your feedback on the needs list, because I will be using that heavily, of course, in my 3.0 mock draft. So that is it. Now, this video is going to be a little bit different here. As you can see, I'm just going to be presenting each of these mock drafts to make this video condensed, not overly long, because going through each of the mock drafts would take forever live. I am not going to cover the value of the trades. I did keep track of the trades. So if you're ultra curious about what the value of the trade might have been in any of these drafts, just let me know if it was the first, second, third mock draft that I went through, and which trade you're curious about. With that being said, let's actually get to this mock draft. So we're going to start out pretty typical here. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, I think now to me seems like the favorite for the Washington Commanders by a hair. It's trickery season, smokescreen season, right? So I don't know how much of the Drake May and the JJ McCarthy hypes and unhypes to account for in terms of a predictive mock draft. I am trying not to let it impact things too greatly. I do almost know that the whole JJ McCarthy hype is not completely fake. Top 10, top 15 almost seems like a sure thing for him. Is he worth trading up for from pick 11? I don't necessarily know about that. But also, given the Broncos being right there too, it might be necessary to trade up for any team who wants to trade up for, who specifically wants JJ McCarthy. You get what I'm getting at. So, yeah, we're starting pretty typical here at the top of the draft. Drake May to New England, Marvin Harrison to Arizona, Joe Alt to the Chargers. I think is probably the most likely outcome there for the Chargers if they are not trading out of that spot. It just makes sense for the coaching staff. As much as we want to give them wide receivers, as much as they need help in that wide receiver room, I don't know. By what they're saying and everything, Joe Alt there, to me, seems like the favorite pick, at least. New York Giants, Roma Dunes, they've been doing this, all off season. We're going to continue to do that in terms of in terms of what I think will happen. And that's going to bring us to that trade at pick 7. Now, the Vikings, Tennessee are excellent trade partners here because the value just lines up perfectly where the Vikings will pretty much get their value back. Maybe they would have to offer a little bit more here because quarterback, but Vikings 7 and 23, then they can get 11 and like 38 or something like that back from Tennessee. And like I said, that's pretty much an equal swap. Give up a little bit of future capital too, sure, maybe, but at least then Minnesota, you're not just like out of this draft forever. You can get something else in it by just waiting a little bit longer than pick 3. But I'm sure there'll be interest, if Drake May's up here. I think that they're probably interested in that. Who knows, though, with all the anti-Drake May hype out there. That brings us to pick 8, Atlanta Latu. I think that's the pick for them. It could be Dallas Turner for sure. That's the best scheme fit. But, the whole new wave of the NFL, what makes things a little bit tougher, too, in terms of saying, well, this guy's the best fit for this team, is that it's all about taking the best players and then making your scheme work with those players. So Latu is my number 1 pick. There's the report out there that he's Atlanta's number 1 edge rusher, at least on their board, or defensive player on their board. So we're going to go that route. That's going to bring Jared Verse to Chicago here at pick 9. This is one where you will see, I've already mentioned, I believe, that my third mock draft that we go over will be quite similar to this in a lot of ways. Not really on purpose either. I forgot what this one looked like, but then afterwards I realized they're very similar. And this is one where I corrected that pick, and why I kind of wanted to come back and do this exercise again anyways, was I think Dallas Turner is the better fit for Chicago. So much like I've oftentimes done Dallas Turner to Atlanta in the past, Chicago, Atlanta, if they cannot draft, fall out of that spot, I'm sure they would like to fall down in this draft if possible, though. New York Jets, same thing. If they can pull back, awesome. But if not, Taliesa Fuanga, I think, is one of many possibilities there for the New York Jets. Marius Mims to Tennessee, again, one of several options. Bo Nix to Denver, I think, very possible there at pick 12. And the crazy thing here was we see Malik Neighbors fall. Apparently there are some temperamental issues with Malik Neighbors out there, character concerns. So maybe that could contribute towards some sort of fall like this. Yes, it would be surprising, and we think somebody would trade up for him. But at this point, we got pick 13. We did do a massive trade up for him with the Buffalo Bills moving all the way up, with the Las Vegas Raiders moving back. That brings Olu Fashanu there, Quinyon Mitchell to Indianapolis, not surprising. Dallas Turner to Seattle could be a thing. They definitely would like to get more athletic, add more talent along that defensive line. Terrion Arnold to Jacksonville, I'm not so sure about that, which is why we will see a different scenario for Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I think, might be looking to move up in this draft. Brock Bowers, there's another guy who's fallen further than normal in this version, and we see Arizona moved up to pick 20 to get Brock Bowers. Hey, not likely, right? But if somebody wants Brock Bowers by pick 20, would be the time to jump up there, pick 19, pick 20 to get ahead of Miami, because you got to think Miami would probably take him. Maybe they wouldn't, maybe not. They get Troy Fautano there like that. Brian Thomas Jr., to Philadelphia. Byron Murphy to Tennessee there at pick 23. How do you like that, Tennessee? Would you like that or not? Something else that's available that you would like? Let's see. Other than that, so with that move back, Pittsburgh ends up getting Jordan Morgan. They at least get something here by moving back to 27, but they also would have lost out on Troy Fautanu, the one option there that they lost out on. So, yeah, a bit of a fall off there in talent. How big? Depends on what the team thinks. So maybe it was worth it falling back, maybe not for them. Nate Wiggins here at pick 28 to Las Vegas. I think for them, this big trade back with Buffalo, that works very nicely, right? If you end up with Nate Wiggins there at pick 28, I think he could be a fit for them as well. Jerzon Newton there. So I think we see Arizona then moving back up, right? Because they probably used pick 27 to move up earlier. So Arizona gets 3 picks in this mock draft to come up and take Jerzon Newton, somebody who I always give him at pick 27. Adai Mitchell, Chop Robinson to San Francisco. I actually think that's a very possible pick for them because they're going to be needing a guy for their wide 9 unless they want. That's in the West video. I'll talk about that more in the AFC NFC West video. So if you're curious about that, the reasoning there, go check that out because I do talk about that more. And then Land McConkey, Kansas City there to finish this one up. All right, and that brings us on to my, what I have titled 4 days later, my April 9th mock draft. Starting out pretty similar early on, but then the New York Giants there at pick 4, moving up to take J.J. McCarthy, prevent somebody like Minnesota maybe from getting him, etc. there. So big pick there. Early on, you'll see these red dots, these yellow dots over to the sides of these players. So what this is, and I just didn't bother looking at that for those top 6 picks because I think all of these guys are connected to every team, I would assume. So there's no point in doing that. But those red dots are that a top 30 visit has occurred between the team and the player. And the yellow dots are that there's a combine connection, some sort of officially known connection is out there, except for Laiatu Latu. That one's not so official. That one's about the report between the Falcons and who their favorite defensive player or edge rusher is, depending on exactly how that report was worded. That came out like a month or 2 ago, if you're not aware of that. That was basically just saying that Dallas Turner's not the number 1 pick for Atlanta at pick 8 there. The reason that could be false, and that could just be a smokescreen, would because Atlanta, everybody knows they want to go defensive end. Maybe Atlanta just wanted that out there so that way teams feel more comfortable not trading up to get ahead of them. So they just didn't want teams trading up ahead of them to get Dallas Turner. That would be why that's a smokescreen, or how and why that's a smokescreen. All right, so as you can see then, pick 5, Joe Alt talked about that. But then we have Atlanta fell back from pick 4 to New York at pick 6, and they still get Marvin Harrison Jr. because the Los Angeles Chargers apparently still like Joe Alt even more than Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that's possible, right? Then Olu Fashanu going to the Tennessee Titans at pick 7. Top 30 visit there, Bo Nix, so a trade up there for Minnesota. Anyways, I assume just trying to get ahead of Denver, possibly trading up. I think pick 7 or so is about the earliest that Denver might be willing to spend the capital to move up to, and so that's where Minnesota, I think, really has to. They want to go up and get their guy. By that point, if depending on what their board looks like. Here's where this is going to be something that I think is very possible at any point between picks 9 and 14 for Jacksonville, and that is moving up for Quinyon Mitchell. I don't think that the other cornerbacks are going to be anywhere near as high as Quinyon Mitchell on Jacksonville's board. The skill set that Quinyon Mitchell, man-to-man coverage, is what Jacksonville's looking for, and I think they would highly covet it. And it's a multi-purpose thing here that fills a need for them. He is a fit for them compared to the other top cornerbacks, at least on the consensus board, and they get to block Indianapolis, who we think is a team that is very likely would love to have Quinyon Mitchell on their roster, prevent them from getting a very talented cornerback, a guy who I have in my top 10 players of this entire draft. So that's about the earliest that Jacksonville would move up to do that, but they're going to have to start talking to teams ahead of where they want to go in order to make that happen. Chicago, being open to trading, does that. New York Jets, Rome Odunze falls here, so I believe the report is out there already. Like, Jets, if Rome's there, they'll be happy to get him. Latu to Atlanta at pick 11, so they move back and still get their guy. Works out nicely for them. Malik Neighbors, once again, falls in this mock draft to Indianapolis at this point, I guess moving up a little bit of ways with Denver. That could make sense if Indianapolis were to be there for both Denver and Indianapolis. If Malik Neighbors were to be there. Taliesa Fuanga, I think, makes a lot of sense for Las Vegas if Quinyon Mitchell's not available. I would personally take Quinyon over Taliesa, but outside of that, I'm saying if I was Las Vegas. And I think that they would too, right? We got a defensive guy in at head coach, so I think they would like to, get some defensive players in here. and maybe they'll even trade up for Quinyon. Trey Fautanu, so obviously offensive line there. Brock Bowers here to Denver if they decide, in this case, like our main options here at quarterback have been taken. So they move back, get a little extra capital, take Brock Bowers. Could make a lot of sense. They might like Brock Bowers a lot. Another tackle there for J.C. Latham. That's more like a guard pick there for Seattle if they view him as a guard. Doesn't, even if they don't, maybe they would still take J.C. Latham depending on how much they like him. Great scenario here for Chicago. They move back quite a ways, obviously pick up some capital, get Dallas Turner at pick 17, so you gotta like that. Demarius Mims does connected to Cincinnati. Adonai Mitchell is connected. Pittsburgh fans have said that there's no way that they would draft a wide receiver at pick 20. Then what the heck are they doing talking to Adonai Mitchell? Could be a smokescreen. It could be. Those top 30 visits, teams don't always draft a guy who they had a top 30 visit with, and teams aren't always interested. I mean, some guys teams just know that they will draft if they're available, right? And you don't have to look at those guys. But if you have any question marks, which people are going to have on Adonai Mitchell, then you also do want to touch base with him if you haven't previously, or if you still have questions on him, even if you did previously, and you're thinking about it. So obviously Adonai Mitchell's not a slam dunk pick here for Pittsburgh, or they probably want to visit him, but they obviously think that it's a possibility that they would take Adonai here, or maybe trade back and take him, even whatever the case. They're doing their due diligence on Adonai for one reason or another. Or it's a smokescreen. Always possible. From what I understand, like one or two of those might be reserved to just do smoke screens with in terms of those top 30 visits, because that's not a whole lot of visits that they get. Graham Barton to Miami always makes sense there. I did that before I saw anybody else do that, and I was like, it seems like a little bit early for Graham Barton, and now that seems to be a pretty popular pick, and it's a great fit, so that's why that makes sense. Atlanta moved back, picked up some trade value here. They got Latu, and then they get back and they get Nate Wiggins here at pick 23 as well, so I think that works nicely for them. Connection there. Brian Thomas Jr. connected to Kansas City, so we see Kansas City moving up in this with Dallas moving back. I think that could make sense. Dallas might want to move up, and Kansas City might want to move up. Dallas might want to move back. Kansas City might want to move up. If Jared Verse is available for the Packers at pick 25, depending on what else is available, how much they think that they need, like a center, maybe they like Jackson Powers-Johnson. But depending on everything, I think Jared Verse could definitely be somebody that they would be interested in. They could even put like 10 more pounds on Van Ness and move him as more of a Darius Robinson kind of edge / interior defensive lineman kind of guy. They could even plan on doing that if they were to get Jared Verse. Jared Verse a little bit lighter than Van Ness. Other than that, Jackson Powers-Johnson to Tampa Bay makes a lot of sense, right? Ladd McConkey to Buffalo, I think, makes a lot of sense. Schematically, they have at least looked into Ladd, so that makes sense there. Kool-Aid McKinstry to Detroit, I think is very much a possibility. I think that they would like Kool-Aid, a little bit more physical and press man coverage. I think that's what Detroit's looking for. And San Francisco, Jordan Morgan, I do think that fits for the prototype of what San Francisco looks for. And Zach Frazier, Dallas, this is why you move back. You feel comfortable that you can still get Zach Frazier, and fills a big need there for Dallas. Well, picking up some capital, that's going to bring us on to, as you can see, those first 5 picks, 6 picks, all the same as normal. Maybe Tennessee decides to go Malik Neighbors if he is available there at pick 7. I could definitely see that. Any of these teams, I think you could see taking Malik Neighbors if he makes it past these top 6 picks, or Rome Odunze, same story for him. So in this event, I did decide that, hey, Tennessee decides to go for the weapon with Joe Alt off of the board. Just have Malik Neighbors ranked higher. Latu, once again there. JJ Denver, actually, this is where if Minnesota doesn't move up prior to pick 9, that's Chicago's pick, right? Chicago ain't moving the Vikings up there. They have traded with each other in recent history. A pretty significant, huge jump up, actually, for the Minnesota Vikings, I believe it was, maybe that was with Detroit. But whatever the case, you can't expect Chicago to allow that, and you can expect Chicago to say, Denver, come on down. You want a quarterback? You can take one. We'd be happy to let you in here. So that's the risk that Minnesota takes by not getting up earlier, is that Denver then jumps them. specifically here at pick 9 seems super likely. And so, yeah, Denver, J.J. McCarthy at pick 9 there. And once again, Quinyon Mitchell moving up. New York Jets want to move back. Could see that. Byron Murphy ends up being the pick there for the Vikings. Dallas Turner, Chicago. Taliesa Olu, Brock Bowers to Indianapolis. So I've never done this before. This is a big step for me, right? Brock Bowers to Indianapolis could make sense, and I have changed my mind on the second tier of wide receivers. I've kind of moved them back a little bit in my top. Now have a top 100 ranking, by the way, and so I would take Brock Bowers over Brian Thomas Jr. over those wide receivers if I'm even if I'm Indianapolis. But just in terms of my board, it's kind of a clear. I would take Brock Bowers. Jared Verse to Seattle. I think they would probably like Jared Verse. Might not be athletic enough for that group, though. That's something that maybe I didn't think about with that pick, and where I'm leaning interior defensive line. So I don't love that. I don't love that. Not that I dislike it. And Jared Verse is not athletic, and not everybody has to be, just a pure athlete to have speed and everything, which is what Seattle wants on their defense. So it depends what their board looks like, right? So my board said Jared Verse here for sure. Amarius Mims to Seattle. So had Pittsburgh moving up here with who moved back? Jacksonville moves back with the Jets. So Jets take a little bit more capital at this point. Amarius Mims, J.C. Latham, have San Francisco moving up for the last of the first tier or second tier, I'd say second tier of tackles here, and they get Troy Faw now. I think that's a wonderful fit for San Francisco. I think this is very much a reality, a possibility for them to want to be moving up to get a guy like Troy. Then Jets moved back twice here, grabbed a bunch of capital, and I still think that they get one of their top, maybe 3 targets or something like that in the first round. But let's say a top 5 target of theirs in Jerzon Newton at pick 20. Looks like Arizona moved up here. Terrion Arnold, Jax Bowers-Johnson also another move up here for the Tampa Bay, trying to get ahead of Dallas and Green Bay for that one. Bo Nix. So in this situation, Minnesota sits tight. They get Bo Nix. Not too bad. Brian Thomas Jr. there. Anything else crazy? Chop Robinson to Philadelphia after Philadelphia would have moved back. That could make some sense. Miami, this is why I think it makes sense for Miami to be available to moving back. They still get Graham Barton here at pick 27 instead of having to spend up for that at pick 21. There is the risk here. Green Bay Packers, one of the teams most likely you would think that they are taking a risk on Green Bay wanting Graham Barton by moving back, but that, it's not like Graham Barton's the only guy that Miami should be open to here. So we see, I assume, yes, a big move up here for the Los Angeles Chargers for Nate Wiggins as he makes it to pick 28, coming up there for the Chargers to get Nate Wiggins. Cooper DeJean maybe falling a little bit here. Houston also moving up to take Cooper DeJean. Adonai Mitchell, Michael Penix Jr., so the Los Angeles Rams fall back and everything, and then they take their quarterback of the future at the 29th pick, and that leaves, I believe, Las Vegas with, I guess, Spencer Rattler probably, if he doesn't get taken by the New York Giants first. So leaves them in a bit of a rat race for the next best wide quarterback, I assume. And Ladd McConkey once again going to Kansas City, which is going to bring us on to my crappy mock draft. There it is. Pick 1, Caleb Williams, normal, right? We're not going to get ultra crazy. Like I said, we're trying to stick into some reality, and I could have put Drake May here at pick 1 instead. I think is the only guy, just because you say, oh, the ceiling. But Caleb Williams still has that ceiling anyways. So I couldn't do anything else. Caleb Williams, pick 1. Pick 2, though. I don't think this is what's going to happen. I just don't. But J.J. McCarthy to the Washington Commanders at pick 2. There we go. And with that, New England says, hey, we don't find Jaden Daniels, or Drake May worth the pick here, or we're just trying to rebuild things, and maybe nobody's even trying to trade up there. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but this is like the Marvin Harrison pick here, except on their board, they have Rome Odunze ahead of Marvin Harrison. Hey, some teams, we know, some teams have Malik Neighbors ahead of Marvin Harrison. I find it a little bit harder to think that a team would have Rome over Marvin Harrison just because they're more alike. But I don't. I assume there's at least one team that has Rome Odunze higher than Marvin Harrison on their board. Quinyon Mitchell going not only top 10 here, top 5, going at pick 4 to the Arizona Cardinals. You know, we don't know for sure that they love Marvin Harrison. Quinyon Mitch, cornerback's a big need of theirs. You know, this is a deep wide receiver draft. If they want to play the deepness of the draft, we can get wide receiver later on. Once again, this is a crappy mock draft. We don't expect this to be what it will look like. Jaden Daniels at pick 5, so the Vikings, I ended up having them come up here. They said Jaden Daniels is worth it, and they came up here to pick 5 for Los Angeles Chargers, move out of that spot. Marvin Harrison Jr. then goes to the New York Giants. Taliesa Fuanga to the Tennessee Titans. Just isn't Joel still available? Yeah, so just had them move to their rankings a little bit different. Tali Fuanga, like the third tackle. That's why that one. It's possible that teams don't have Joe Alt as their highest ranked tackle. I assume not every team has him ranked their highest. And so maybe the Titans are one of those teams. Maybe they like Tally. Falcons, Malik Neighbors still available. I'm going to have them go that route. It's possible. At pick 9, had Denver just do a little jump up here, maybe making sure that Las Vegas isn't able to jump them for the next best quarterback in Drake May, since he's still available. So just ensuring their guy. And then at pick 10, it looks like Las Vegas making a little jump up for Cooper DeJean there. So they wanted their guy, and they would have been jumping the Los Angeles Chargers, which that rivalry there, that this makes a little bit of sense in that sense. And I think that they could like Cooper DeJean, and Quinyon Mitchell is off the board. And then finally, Joe Alt to the Chargers. So, the drop happens, fall happens, and crazily enough, the Chargers still get Joe Alt at pick 11. How crazy is that? Jerzon Newton going to Chicago at pick 12. Not like the need that we think they're addressing there. With the edge rushers, I think still all available maybe here. So I think so, yeah. And then right behind that, Byron Murphy going to the New York Jets. Both of these teams do have a need here at the interior defense. But we just expect, this isn't what we're expecting to see on draft day. And then New Orleans, we're expecting no doubt that they go offensive line. And I'm not the only person to have said this. Like, they are a dark horse option for Brock Bowers. They do need tight end, and Brock Bowers is a top 10, top 5 talent in this in any draft. So they could just say, well, we're gonna take Brock Bowers. Latu, then it's not the biggest need for Indianapolis. In fact, I think it's at the bottom of my needs board, but maybe best player available approach has them going Latu at pick 15. I'm just trying to give you the slight little sliver of logic to some of these picks. Olu Fashanu, once again, for Seattle, really looking for like a guard interior offensive line primarily. It's not that they couldn't shuffle things around. They couldn't get a little bit of help on tackle, whatever the case. This is basically another case of best player available. So they take Fashanu. They need help along the offensive line, and they'll shuffle some guys around is the logic there, because Fashanu is not going in at guard. He's your tackle. Then Amarius Mims going to Jacksonville. I think that they need guard more, but there is a need there along the offensive line in general for Jacksonville. And I think that some teams are going to love Amarius Mims, so I think another case here where best player available. And I've talked about this a little bit as far as the remaining cornerbacks, the non-Quinyon Mitchell cornerbacks. I'm not so sure Jacksonville will be in love with their talents. Although, if they view Terrion Arnold as a nickel slot cornerback, I do think that could be where Jacksonville would see and be excited for Terrion Arnold in that kind of role for them. Then, here's why this is unlikely. The Lions trading up for a cornerback in this draft. Not crazy. But none of us really think that the Lions are going to be too high up on Nate Wiggins. The reason that they might be is that Nate Wiggins, although he can't play like he's a dog, his mentality is that of a dog, and we know that the Detroit Lions love their tough players. They're mentally tough players. Is they like physically tough, definitely, but they also like mentally tough. They like football players. Maybe they fall in love with Nate Wiggins, the player, and he is the second guy in this draft in terms of cornerbacks where I think you could put him on an island potentially and him shut down players in the NFL. The risk is he just might get bodied by wide receivers at the NFL. He might just be too scrawny and not be able to hold up at all. In which case, boom, he's not going to be able to lock down a lot of guys. So that's the risk there, and why we don't think that Detroit's going to go for that. But uh, would this be the worst case scenario? Would this be the least likely outcome of the draft for the Detroit Lions in the first round? I don't think it's the least likely outcome. Pittsburgh, Jax Bowers-Johnson. This was a case of, a lot. This is very common, but I had him pass on Troy Fontenot and J.C. Latham. I think at pick 20, it's more likely that they would go one of those two if they're available over Jackson Bowers-Johnson. That's all. Xavier Worthy to the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, I think some people might mock this seriously. And there is that sliver of like, what if Miami did this? That would be crazy. I do think it's possible. We'll just say that. So it's a little bit of fun with a sliver of possibility. Bringing Philadelphia on the clock. If you look at what's available on the board, they're going. There's still Brian Thomas Jr. still available. Adonai Mitchell's still available. We have them thinking that Troy Franklin is the guy for them here at pick 22. Not the likeliest situation. Is it possible? It's possible. We know of at least a couple people who hate Brian Thomas Jr., and we know that there are people who love Troy Franklin. So maybe that's the Philadelphia staff. Then pick 23, very fun pick here, I think, with the Chargers picking up picks 11 and 23. Cornerbacks mostly off of the board, I think, at this point, or all of them. Yeah, those top cornerbacks off the board. We don't expect running back to go in the first round at all. Like, this would be super shocking, but Michigan, if they were to take a running back here, I could see them actually liking Blake Corum more than the injured Jonathan Brooks and more than the Trey Benson in terms of what they want from a running back. So, Harbaugh brings in his guy in Blake Corum, not only because it's his guy, but also they desperately need a running back, and he doesn't know if he's going to be available at their next pick, and blah, blah, blah. So they go for it. I originally was going to have Dallas take running back in this draft, but it felt a little silly there with Troy Fontenot still available. Their need at the tackle position, I couldn't quite do it, so had him go Troy Fontenot or J.C. Latham there, either one. Peyton Wilson going to the Green Bay Packers, pick 25. Not the least likely thing in the world. Dallas Turner, still available here. Obviously, I think Tampa Bay probably would go that route. At this point, there's some guys that have just fallen that it's like, well, all right, now they got to get taken. And then Arizona Cardinals, Jared Verse, J.C. Latham going to Buffalo. They need some help along the offensive line there, so that could make a lot of sense. And he is going to be, is he a guard, is he a tackle? Either way, he should be an asset for Buffalo. It's not the most likely thing that we expect, especially Brian Thomas Jr. still on the board, I assume, right? We still got Adonai Mitchell available. Buffalo says it's a deep wide receiver draft. We don't get and this is kind of true too. I tend to like drafts better for teams when they take the tackle if they need tackle and wide receiver both in the first round, and then get wide receiver later. So that would be the logic behind it. Michael Penix Jr. going, I think we already had one, right, where I did that, going to the Los Angeles Rams. That's the risk of these teams if they don't take Michael Penix Jr. early enough. A team like the Los Angeles Rams might just say, hey, we like the talent enough, we'll take them. Green Bay Packers style kind of thing. Tyler Nubin going to Baltimore. We don't expect this to be the pick here for Baltimore, but he's a very, very good fit for what they need. And, Sycama's got him ranked 26 on his big board, so some NFL team could be very high on him too. Could be Baltimore. Brian Thomas Jr. going to San Francisco. Obviously, we think they're okay with their wide receiver situation and everything, but this would signal that maybe things are going to be a change in this year or next year yet for the wide receivers soon enough, and that would make that a very possible pick. And then people like Tyler Guyton. I like Patrick Paul more than Tyler Guyton. A big prospect kind of tight tackle. I'm sure that some teams like Patrick Paul more. I mean, he did do better in college, and they both are mobile. They're both big. Like everything that people talk about with Tyler Guyton, Patrick Paul is pretty much the same. There are other concerns for Patrick Paul, but the thing is, at the end of the day, college numbers for Patrick Paul were better than Tyler Guyton's. So I think it's possible Kansas City could take him at the end of that first round. And Mitchell's still available and stuff, not the most likely with how this draft fell, but and that's what makes this all the more shocking anyways. So there we go. There are our 4 mock drafts in under 40 minutes. Perfect timing. Thank you so very much. Hope you enjoyed these. Don't take them too seriously. Just don't. But any feedback is always appreciated. And like I said, big mock draft video 3.0 coming out next Sunday or Monday. This coming Sunday or Monday. And later this week, like Thursday, we'll have the AFC NFC West video coming out. And come visit me live here on YouTube during the draft. I'll be here reacting and all that fun stuff and interacting with you. So, peace out. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.